for the welfare of the nation, the soldiers. Maybe chapter 83, Pei Gimel. Those who read Hebrew can read in Hebrew, or should we just read in English maybe together? How's the Hebrew? Pei Gimel, 83. Shir Mizmor LaAsaf, Elohim al damilach, al techarash v'al tishkot el. God, keep not your silence, hold not your peace, be not still. Ki nei oivecha yehemayun u'misanecha na'asu rosh. For your enemies make a tumult, and they that hate you have lifted up their head. As we'll say, we see a lot of the sources that those who rise up against Israel, that they're rising up against the Shekhinah, against the divine. Am Yisrael brings the divine good, the light, the whole revolution to human culture of goodness, of holiness to the world. The enemies sense that, and it's instinctive enemy. They try to hold up that light and attacking Israel, but what they're attacking is that light of God, that good. They're called the enemies of God. Your enemies make a noise, and they hate you. They that hate you have lifted up their heads. Alamcha yerimu sod. They've taken crafty counsel against your people. V'yatzu al tzvonecha. Amru lechu v'nachagim migoy. They said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. Totally destroy the Jewish people, that the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They made a covenant against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites, the Moab, the Hagarins, Gabal, Ammon, Amalek, the Philistine, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also joined with them. All the enemies joining together. They have hope of the children of Lot, Selah, all together. But do unto them as you've done unto the Midianites, as to Sisra, as to Yavin, the brook of Kishon, which perished at Ein Dor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Orev and like Zev, all the enemies that were destroyed. They should all be like them. All their princes as Zevach and Salmuna, who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. Oh my God, make them like a whirl, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth the wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. 83.
It's only 5 verses.
No, it was 19.
There's a middle page you probably missed there. No, you have 2 pages, I think.
As the fire burns wood, and the flame sets the mountains on fire, so persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord. Ultimately, to recognize the true source of life, the true source of good. Let them put down their swords and turn to goodness, like we say in Elenu L'Shabeach, that all the evil should recognize you and bow to you and recognize it, and then obviously leave their ways of evil and destruction to seek good. But until then, to get rid of those that try to destroy and to hold up that good from all of mankind. Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Let them be put to shame and perish. Let men may know that you, whose name alone is Hashem, alone most high over all the earth. The whole thing is, the whole process, the whole war is to make God's name known, to make the good of God, to make the light of God, the benefit of all of mankind, what's at stake here. It's not a private battle of self-defense, as we'll see. It's the completion of Am Yisrael about to continue in its path and to grow and to rise up another level in the expression of that God's goodness, of bringing that name of God, of bringing justice and harmony and love to the world. And there's forces that try to hold that up. And they instinctively feel when there's a new level that's about to be born, a new expression of a higher, fuller expression of that light. Hopefully now soon the final expression of that. They rise up like a last stand to try to keep their forces of evil, to try to hold up that light. Meanwhile, it's a very painful process. They have a certain success, you might think. In other words, it looks like a lot of destruction and savagery and killing, but we'll see how to relate to that, because we're living in special times. Like on one hand, we see these unbelievable atrocities, expressions of evil, what man, so to speak, men are capable of doing. On the other hand, unbelievable acts of heroism, of self-sacrifice, mesirut nefesh, dedication, devotion, and the unity of Israel, the volunteering, what's going on. If you're not aware of what's taking place here in recent months, before this war broke out, there were voices of weakness regarding the connection to the nation of Israel, to the national feeling of Jewish values, the unity of the nation. It was a very strong division, demonstrations, even when we came to say that we're brothers, at least when it comes down to it, there's different political and ideas and philosophies, outlooks, but we're brothers. And there were those that said, no, you're not my brother. Add to that, to that extent, unbelievable. Sarvanut, they said, we're not going to go be drafted, we're not going to go to the army, we're not going to serve in the Air Force. And then comes, that was a few weeks, not too long ago, 2 weeks ago. You're not aware of the news, what was...
There's Yom Kippur in Tel Aviv. There's like, you can't have Yom Kippur.
Can. It's unbelievable what we got to. And yet, come these tragic events that wake us up. In one moment, like the rabbis say, like a little flame, and all this, how do you say kash, the wheat, the straw, the quantity of the weakness and leaving of Jewish values and unity of Israel, all that we mentioned and even more. And all of a sudden, in one moment, the quantity is quenched by the quality, the inner soul, the divine inner neshama is awoken, is expressed. And the curtain goes up and you see who's the real Israel. What is our true essence? All the images and all the imaginations and all the weaknesses just dissolve. And all of a sudden, like the curtain is revealed and we see who we really are. This unbelievable, like I said, dedication. Everyone who heard of what's going on, they even didn't hear exactly what was going on. They just left their homes. One with a pistol, one with a knife. He had nothing. He just went down to the south. He heard there's something going on, needs to be helped, and all the Jews went from all the different places, from Chutzlar, the people that out abroad, Israelis that got on we have to get back. This awakening, this feeling, the dedication, and in the face of danger. A neighbor here that was killed. He lives in one of the settlements in Shlomit. He heard that next door, the terrorists, whatever, he didn't know the extent of what was going on, but they went out, he grabbed his pistol, and maybe he had a gun, I'm not sure, or a rifle. But they just went, another one, also a few of them, they went and just jumped up to the next settlement. It wasn't their settlement, but he heard that there's a danger next door, or nearby. Just get up and no second thoughts, just to go out and to save, dedication, knowing in the face of danger. Again, after years of attempts to quench all of this national connection and unity, and that we're like a nation of all other nations, of this, all the, again, different political and ideological confusion that's been surrounding us for the last few years. And all these attempts are just like, all of a sudden the neshama, the inner truth of who we really are, what we are, it just breaks through. It's not at the conscious level, it's the super conscious level, this divine level, the neshama. Also the leaders have been freed a little bit from the shackles of different misconceptions they had, many from the right and from the left, rethinking their thoughts of how partners we have and how we can, hachala, it's called, how do you say hachala, tolerance, we have to tolerate the other side, different opinions and the enemy. War is one of the divine mechanisms that frees us from these misconceptions. It's a process that forces us and brings us to inner awareness of who we are, what we are. Like I said, this inner dimension breaks through. Our goal is to be aware of it, understand it, learn it, and teach it, to bring it to the conscious level, and to have it remain also, that afterwards it doesn't just go a fleeting moment of this inner enthusiasm or neshama breaking through, but then later it subsides. But we have to carry through and bring it out to its understanding that there's a new level that is supposed to be born, a new dimension. The nation built the first stage, as we've learned, and the prophet, let's go 36, 37, the stages of redemption. First, the building of the nation. The focus was on the physical welfare, the survival, the existence of the nation and the land, the material side. And then comes like the process of each one of us as individuals, right? The individual growth, the baby groans, the motor development, the physical side, and then the spiritual, then the inner, the intellectual, the human side, more and more now has a strong basis to be revealed. That's how it goes. First the physical, then the spiritual. And we're approaching that final era of the revealing of that inner content, the inner essence of who we are, what we're doing here. But the first generations that built the state were dealing with and focused on, and had to be focused on the, how do you say, hisardut, the survival against all the enemies after the Holocaust, coming back and making us say with all the enemies surrounding us, all the different wars we've been through. There wasn't the focus and wasn't the time and wasn't the, unfortunately, study of what we're coming back to build here, why we're coming back. What is the meaning of our presence and possession of the land of Israel? What does it mean for us, for the world? What blessing comes to the world through our presence here? And now that we're at the state that has to come out, that has to be understood and revealed. And when we could have taught, and we, Rav Kook and all the teachings, to try to expose and to make the nation, the child, aware of his true being, of what you're here for, what you're living for.
He has a book, right? Orot Melchama.
Okay, in a chapter, in the section of Orot. But I'm saying here in general, the process of redemption, that the rebirth of the nation, it goes through these stages of first the physical side, the material side, and then has to come the spiritual awareness, the conscious awareness of what you're doing and why. Like the child goes through in the transition period between those two stages, there's this difficult, precarious situation of he's no longer a child, no longer can just do without understanding it. He's not yet an adult understanding of what his purpose in life. He has this adolescent stage of questions and different challenges, and not sure of what he is and what his life is for, what he's doing here. And it can be very, like I said, very a precarious situation. So to the nation. And our goal is to rise up and, of course, I said, your teachings and to show and to lead the nation, to guide the nation in its further development, to go to the next stage of growth, of understanding of who we are. He writes in one of the letters, our goal is lizrok neshama, is to reveal, to expose the neshama in this body of the nation. It's not just to be another flag at the UN. We have a purpose, a goal, a divine purpose, to bring such good, such light, to connect all of mankind to Hashem, to the source of life, to the source of absolute good. Like we read in the Haftarah, we didn't read it this Shabbat because it was right before Rosh Chodesh, but in Yeshayahu 42, to be a light unto the nations. What it says, Avram Avinu, you'll be V'nivrachu b'cha kol mishpachot adama. All the families of the earth, excuse me, will be blessed through you. The blessing comes to the world. This is the heart of the nations that brings life and not just physical life, but the spiritual life, spiritual good and justice and holiness and kindness and generosity and goodness to the world. But if we don't, we didn't prepare enough, or the nation didn't rise up to understand itself by itself. So there's external forces that challenge you and force you to grow, to understand, to look inside. Who are you? What are you doing here? Why are you here? And like you said, as the book talks about, and others about the function of wars, that is a painful way, but that has a certain function in mankind in general, in Am Yisrael, to look inside and to go to the next level, like it's birth pangs, labor pangs, a new birth, a new child is coming out, is ready to come out, and their mother refuses. The people say want to stay with their own concepts of how they understood the world. They were satisfied with the way everything is. It's fine, and we have a state, we have a government, Air Force, Army, we have intelligence. Everything is fine. So the baby is waiting to come out, something much greater, like this super baby, this super entity, this super nation of Israel, that you will bring my name to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, like to be this heart that uplifts all of mankind, a revolution in human concepts and culture. But blessing is waiting, and you're like stifling it. You think everything is satisfied the way it is. So then come these labor pains, these tragic and sufferings that to help the baby out, to force the baby out, to help this new life. So in spite of, again, all the pain that goes with this process, all the suffering, the atrocities that we've seen here, I mentioned the deaths and the way they were killed, and then the prisoners, whatever, the captives and hostages, whatever you call them, and not hostages, they kidnapped people and women and children with all the pain, and obviously there's pain, and we're supposed to feel that pain. But with that comes the understanding that what comes out of it, like the woman in birth, that she knows that there's something so great that's coming out, that this pain isn't just for nothing, it's some decree. The pain comes to force out, to facilitate the birth. We have to learn to see the inner dimension, what is taking place here, what is growing here, what is the baby that's inside, that's coming out, what is new level that's waiting expression. The learning of emunah, what Rav Kook calls it, the study of Jewish faith, of the different sources of Torah, of emunah. There's the aspect of Torah that what we call it, the practical side, the do's and don'ts, what to do, the laws, Shulchan Aruch. You get up in the morning and you put on tefillin. And there's also the spiritual side of Torah, which are endless levels of this, of the Kuzari, the Maharal, and Ramchal, and levels to the Zohar, the deeper wisdom of Torah, that explain not just the do's and don'ts, but what's behind it, what's it for, what does it bring about, what unbelievable ideals for all of existence come about through those minutiae details of the do's and don'ts that we fulfill. What amazing content is behind it. And that teaches us to learn the inner dimension, not just the outside, the external, the behavior, the external side also of history, not just all of our actions, but of history, what is going on in the world. To understand what is this inner dimension, this unfolding of history, what is inside. Rav Kook calls it, he says we have to learn to see in Mamarei Ariyah, the toch and the nolad. The toch is the inner, what is developing, what is pushing inside, what is happening inside, and the nolad is what is born. What is the goal that is about to be reached, that is leading to this inner dimension, that is pushing towards what? What's the goal? What is the nolad? What is born from all that? And that we have to learn and study to be able to stand up to all these difficulties and challenges, not to have our spirits fall in the face of, again, savage enemies, and to think that it's lost and God forbid but the spirit, with Baruch Hashem, the spirit of the nation is very strong, and the army, I have sons and sons-in-laws. It's unbelievable, the courage, the spirit of the nation, not just the soldiers, but like the civilians, like I said, the volunteering. It's I don't know if you've seen. They said in there the stadium in Teddy, whatever, the Arana, the lining up for lines for giving blood. Even when there was an azakah, there was a siren. People just lie down for a minute and then went back up to stand on lines and lines and lines. The giving of food and then bringing goods for other people, for the soldiers, and also for those in Sderot and other places that were affected. One guy said he went to visit the hospital. He was offered like 7 courses of a meal till he got to visit the person he wanted to see. It's very emotional. The outpouring of this neshama. There's no right and left and Ashkenazi, Sfaradi. It's the neshama. The neshama is that inner unified source of life of the Jewish people, the divine inner essence that is beyond, it precedes and transcends all the individual understandings and misunderstandings. And here it's the neshama. The war is a time when the neshama, this collective life soul, dominates, is enhanced, pushes through. But there's a gap between the conscious level, like I said, all the weaknesses and understandings and who we are, what we're doing here, and between the inner neshama. There are times when there's self-denial, like I said. Up to now we experience, like I said, even Yom Kippur, the holiest day that even the secular Jews that wanted to celebrate, to participate, have some form of participation of the prayers. Some people came to destroy that, they can't. They disturb that, they can't even see that. Jews, that there's this self-denial, and on the other hand, there are times of heroism and united the nation of Israel. So what is the real us? So the real us is, again, in times of war, is the real, will the real Am Yisrael please stand up? The neshama now comes out. And that's the immutable, the eternal side, the divine essence. And this Mesiut Nefesh, the dedication and devotion that we see on the civilian and in the military, are just, they stem from that inner neshama, that awakened neshama. There's practical expressions of this awakened soul. We have to bring it to awareness. Our goal is to be those who understand what's going on and to bring it, not just this instinctive inner awakening, but to bring it to the conscious understanding and the beauty of the grandeur. What are we doing here? That's the whole process, is to bring us to a new level, to graduate to a higher level of understanding who we are, what we're doing here. Like I said, not just to the physical presence, but to understand the meaning of that presence in the world. Because there are forces, and that's why forces come against us to question and say, you're not legitimate, you're not immoral, you shouldn't be here, you don't have a right to exist even. And then we have to clarify. The Maral talks about that in many places. This, or paraphrase with the famous sentence, right, of Plato, no? Necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of advance. He calls it, Rav Kook calls it the hechrech, the necessity that forces out. You can't stay put. Maral in chapters, many places, in chapter 30, 35, 36, in many places, what he calls the heder kodem lahavaya, the absence that precedes existence. The negative, the collapse of the previous before the new, the bigger. And that's almost a necessity in human development, because usually, like I said, when you're happy and you're satisfied, you stay put. Well, you don't go a demonstration. I'm happy, everything is fine. You go out when things are bad and they can't go on like this and you want to change something because things aren't the way you want them to be. And even worse, when you can't go on this way, you're forced to go out. Like I said, the baby it wants to push out and you refuse. And there's things that force it. So Maral in many chapters elaborates here on for every new expression of existence, there's the collapse of the previous in order to make room for the new, like the baby teeth fall out to make room for the new. But not only, the truth is, it's not only that to make room, but they force out. Also, a dentist told me, even for that metaphor, that there's also the, I don't know, enzymes, whatever it's called, that when the baby teeth fall out, they'll just make room. Now there's more room for it to move in, but they cause the excretion of certain things that cause and help facilitate the permanent teeth to come in. In other words, the previous state doesn't just collapse that there should be more room, but it forces out, it pushes out, it makes a need for that new state, that new development. He says, therefore, there'll be this emptiness, heder, that comes before the manifestation of the Mashiach. It's like the childhood. It doesn't mean everything is destroyed. The world collapses. I don't know what they call it, apocalyptic. It's like the rabbis would call it, the youth is destroyed before adulthood. It's not like, again, the baby dies, God forbid, but the youth, as he understood himself, collapses. It no longer continues like it before. It becomes this no man's land. He's no longer a child, and he's not yet an adult. He doesn't have that instinctual push, a drive of growing by himself. Because that was enough to push the first stages of development. But now, Rav Kook has an article in Mamaraya called the Tkuvat HaMavar, the transition period. It was like I call it an autopilot. At the beginning, you're an autopilot. It's flowing, it's growing. You don't have to do anything. It's growing, it's flying properly. And then you're ready for the next stage of being on your own, to be independent. So they stop the autopilot. Now it's very scary because you're not used to yet doing it by yourself. So like I said, you're not yet ready. You haven't practiced yet doing it on your own. And now the autopilot is off. You're on your own. So there's this precarious situation, but it's not like that the previous is destroyed, but the autopilot, the instinctual development is now no longer there, no longer needed, because now you're supposed to be. You have to take it from here on, like in Egypt, when we left Egypt. God does everything. It's all miraculous. It's all the wars, everything is. And then we reach the stage towards Eretz Yisrael. There's a training process that God now, more and more, you're on your own to make us independent. A lot to talk about here, how God does it. We see in the chapters in Bishalach that He says, took us around we wouldn't be afraid, right? And we went around. What do you mean we afraid? So make them either get rid of the enemy or give them the strength that they'll go and they won't be afraid. But no, now it's a training. Now you have to be on your own. They're not yet ready. They fight on their own. They have to be on their own, but they're not yet ready to face the enemy right after being Again, baby, spoon-fed up till now. So now I'll take them around lest they fear and not wanting to go in, whatever. In other words, this training, beginning of the training, and more it develops of independent. God wants us to be human, to use our faculties, not to be, people think religion is like just succumb to God, meaning you just lose your humanity, lose your individuality, lose your faculties. Don't use them and just submit to God. And
Oh, that's Islam, right?
Nachon.
No,
Nachon.
Islam is like submission.
Nachon,
Pure
submission. Okay.
Yeah.
But here it's God wants man to be man, the true man, and he develops us, he trains us. All of history is to bring man to his full, the goodness of the ideals of man, to be a holy person, to be righteous, to be good, the goodness of man. Nevertheless, so we're in this stage, again, so what it means is that childhood collapses, doesn't mean he destroyed the baby, the child is dead, God forbid. The whole purpose is to reach adulthood. But the childhood, his child understanding of himself no longer can function. And now, like at the autopilot, the auto development of growth, now you have to know who you are, why you are, what you're living for. And now come all the questions, and he's not yet ready, doesn't have all the answers. It's not a quick thing from zero to adulthood. There's this interim period, which is very, again, like I said, precarious, difficult, and challenges like we see in the individual, and certainly on the national level. But that's what's taking place. He talks about it. The chapters here of this negative or this collapse that forces out, and the function is that it forces out this development. Like we say in the prayers in the morning, before Kriyat Shema, God does the wars, seeds, plants the seeds, and then Matzmiach Yeshua, then it will blossom with the redemption. In other words, the wars are process of the seeding. When the land is not ready to take the seeds, it's hard soil. It refuses to accept the seeds. There's a breaking through, and then the seeds can be planted, or received, and then can blossom the redemption. These are, again, it's a long historical process. It's an amazing thing of how to understand the ways of God. But what we're living through now is not our philosophy. We're living through this phenomenon of this forced upon us, this arousal, this awakening process. Rav Kook writes in Orot, chapter.
Translation is a bit.
I know. We'll take what there is. Chapter 44 in the Lights of Renaissance. I'll read the translation here, whatever. But we have a tradition that there will be a spiritual revolt in the land of Israel, the people of Israel, at the time when the beginning of the national revival will be aroused. The nation is coming back to life. What we've been witnessing, living in the last 100 so years, the national revival. The material prosperity that will come to a part of the nation. We succeed, not only survive, but exist, thriving, the culture, the economy, defense, right? Israel, Baruch Hashem, a thriving, vital nation. The amazing economy and the security, or the high-tech, what do they call it, the startup nation, etc. So they will come to the material prosperity that will come to part of the nation, who will imagine that they've already achieved their complete goal. We've reached the goal. That's it. Finally, peace and quiet. Just let us live. That's all we wanted. We're here. The redemption has come. That's, in their eyes, so to speak, part of the nation might think that that's it. That's all we wanted, to run away from persecution. Switzerland and Israel. And that will shrink the soul. And there will come days regarding which you will say there is no desire. The aspiration for the lofty and holy goals will cease. I'm satisfied. The neshama that really is pushing for much more, is pushing for the manifestation of God's name in the world that will bring goodness and blessing to all of mankind, all of creation. And you're stopping in the middle of the way we're satisfied in, how do you say the first tachana, the first station. That's all we wanted. Because on the conscious level, that's all some of the leaders wanted, just safe refuge, Herschel, just to be safe from persecution. But the neshama, the God's purpose of creation is to bring this nation to be this lion among nations, to bring, like I said, this spiritual revolution of goodness, of holiness, of cultural renaissance of all of the world. But at the time, they think that now like I said, when everything seems to be good, you don't need to look elsewhere. We have everything we need now. What's missing? And as a result, the spirit will sink until there'll come a storm and a stir revolt. You won't be able to say that way. Oh, the process won't stop. The divine ideal, the redemption of mankind, of the world, will be. The question is how we get there. This neshama, this inner light, this nucleus of the divine ideal planted in this world, and as the soul, the life force of the Jewish nation, is now coming back to life and starting to stand up and rise, like in Yechezkel 37. The dry bones are coming back, and the body is being built, and the spirit of life comes into it. There's a spirit of life that's pushing this whole process. But not everyone's aware of that. And they thought the goal was just to, like I said, the physical, material prosperity. But then comes the story. You can't stay there. Then it'll be seen clearly that the strength of Israel is the eternal holy, the light of the Lord and His Torah, the love for the spiritual light, which is the absolute might, victorious over all the worlds and their powers. It goes on. In other words, this process that we're in the midst of, this painful process, again, with all the pain and the suffering and the unbelievable people that see it, I haven't looked, you're not supposed to look, it doesn't help the soul to see certain things. It's aware, we know the enemy is cruelty and barbarity. And then
The survivors, I heard a story yesterday. He was at this concert in Re'im, next to the strip, and he was stuck for 6 hours, and there were 40 terrorists around him, murdering people, raping women, executing them.
okay. It's barbaric. It's hard to believe what they did to children and cutting off. It's hard to, in the modern world, right? It's not like that used to be. So that's part of this, again, this eclipse, this negative before the bigger positive. So with all the pain, we have to be, how do you say, encouraged to know that this is the precursor to a new stage, a new level, a new birth, a new light, like we say every day, like Or Chadash al Tzion, the new light on Zion. And the enemy feels that. The enemy always comes, these attempts to stop the light of Israel always come when they sense internal, this instinctive sense, when we're about to go up to a new level. When we left Egypt, we're about to receive the Torah, who comes? Amalek. To try to hold up that force. Nothing against them. We're not taking their land or anything. No, how do you say, no political, no, how do you say, whatever, rights of their land. This, they can't, it's the arch enemy of that good. There's forces of evil in mankind that try to hold up this light.
Do we know where they came from?
No, that's what we talk about. Rashi talks about, yeah, there's. And then we have the second temple, the Jews' cards coming back, second temple. And then Haman and his sons can't stand that, try to hold up. All throughout history, the Vilna Gaon writes how the Palestine, there's these people called the Palestine, the Palestinians, but they have no national existence. They have no, how do you say, national culture or purpose. Their only whole existence is just to negate the Jewish kingdom. Every time the Jewish sovereignty, Shaul, whatever, the new king, they arise to try to hold it up, which again is part of this divine mechanism which causes the kingdom to have to define itself, clarify itself. So why am I here? What is my right to exist? So each time there's this anti-force that comes to question and to threaten the light. So too now we're going to, again, according to the greatness of Cook writes. Yeah, there's so much I'd like to read to you, but maybe we'll continue. Maybe I'll read to you quickly. After call them riots in 1929, when mainly in Hebron, but not only there, they spread to the riots of the Arabs. Before we had a state, before we had their land, before we took.
Rav Cook was alive.
Again, he fainted when he heard they called him in the. They murdered, butchered. It's nothing new. The quantity and the extent is much greater than we're able to understand here. The people that are dealing with it and identifying it, I don't want to get to the gory detail. It's unbelievable. But again, in 1929, butchered and raped and massacred, mutilated the bodies. Rav Kook wrote we see in the process of the national rebirth and the expansion of the settlement in Israel, a lot of ups and downs. And anyone who goes after all the order from the beginning till today can see. Bachush, he says, in the sense, you could see it, you could tangibly.
Sense it?
You can sense it, you can see it tangibly. How do you tangible? No,
Touch it.
right. That should be out of every yeridah, out of every fall that we have suffered, blossomed a new aliyah, a new development, even greater than before, and a new positive jump to a higher level that came out of every crisis. And therefore we have to know and take a message and learning not to have our spirits fall, even from this amazing, meaning tragic fall that we have now just witnessed, that fell in our settlement, in Hebron, mainly in other cities, by these Rishaim Rotzchim, these impure, murderous, savage murderers that purposely went out to kill in Yerushalayim, in Hebron, in Motzah, in Tzfat, that destroyed the house of Israel, the beauty of Israel, not destroyed the whole nation, but the settlements in these places that were built with Mesirat Nefesh, with the dedication and devotion, the work of generations, and they destroyed it all. It shook the foundations of our settlement in Eretz Yisrael. And this kisui, this covering, that the Redeemer is covered. Here we're starting the redemption. People are all happy. The nation, and after the World War I, the Balfour Declaration, Jews can come back to recognize the Jewish rights to their land in Palestine. That the nations of the world should recognize. We weren't even recognized as a people, as legitimate to live with the individuals, as a nation. And all of a sudden, and then San Remo, the ratification, and then come these riots, and it seems like it's all, no, we almost got there, and it seems to be falling. So Rabbi is referring here to the Midrash and Shir Shirim, how the redemption is like a tzvi, it's like a gazelle, lion, whatever, that goes up and is hidden, Like it goes up and then all of a sudden you don't see it anymore, and then all of a sudden it shows up again. And Rav Tau mentions how he explains how even when he's hidden from your sight, he's not stopping to go. It's not like it appears and then keeps appearing and reappearing. Even when it's down, when you don't see it, it's still advancing. Behind the scene, underneath the rocks, whatever, it's going on, and then you see him again in a further, more advanced stage. So too the rabbis go on in the Midrash Shir Shirim, Rabbah. So too the Redeemer will be revealed, nigle v'nichse v'nigle. Be revealed, covered, hidden, and again exposed. This is process of revealing. You think, no, here it is. No, it's not over yet. Unfortunately, there's still stages. There's this hiddenness. But of course, referring to that, he says, so too the shock of the foundation of Israel by this hiding, this hiddenness. The Redeemer is now hidden again. Where's it gone? Where's the redemption? We started to build 1920. We'll talk about the riots in 1921, Rav Kook wrote. But here, 1929, these riots that seemed to collapse the fledgling nation before it's even a state.
There was a response, there was a reaction in the Jewish community after the riots.
Well, this is Rav Kook's reaction when the thing he wrote this article. He says how often, how nora vayom, how awesome this is, how this is greater. He says in certain aspects, with all the darkness of the fallings that we've savalna that we suffered from the beginning of the settlement till today. We can say the same thing, definitely, even more. Who would have imagined? But it should be clear that according to the measure of the kisui, of the concealing, so too is the measure of the light that will be revealed afterwards. In other words, like I said, the labor pains, the woman's complaining how painful, and then he says, that's okay, don't worry, you have a baby, you're going to give birth. And then she says, no, but it's even getting worse and worse and worse, and the pains are getting more severe and more intense. And he says, oh, Yofi, that's great. He's smiling, the doctor, the midwife, whatever. You're even closer to birth. So before they birth, according to the measure of the darkness that seems to be so all-encompassing, so strong and so cruel and evil, so too the measure of the revelation that will be following it, that comes right afterwards. And what we're living through today, we have to be aware, and that's our goal and our job, because as the neshama, this collective life force is exposed and comes to more of a to the front, there's an effect of this unity. And we see, again, this unity, this feeling of unity, this total, no groups and movement. Although there's some people, whatever, but nevertheless, the people feel and recognize all over the world. They realize that Am Yisrael represents this good. There's a battle of evil against good, of light and darkness, right? President Biden, whatever. This is not a private battle of the Jewish people, not for our self-defense. This is literally, even more than people recognize, but literally the battle of evil that's trying to hold up this good. And our battle against get rid of this evil is not some bloodthirsty whatever, but to get rid of that evil from the world, to erase that from the planet for the good of mankind, to get rid of this evil, darkness, disease from mankind, to bring about such goodness that's waiting for mankind. And Am Yisrael is the forefront, is the, how do you say, the Rosh Hachetz, the vanguard in this battle, because that's our goal in the world. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh, in the end of Parshat Toldot, talks about how Am Yisrael, the goal is to collect all we're in the exile, he says, to collect all the sparks of this good that's scattered all over the world. There's good aspects and good ideas and good concepts. There's an even deeper concept of how these certain forces of good are scattered over the world. That Am Yisrael is supposed to collect them all, bring them all to unify like this conductor that guides and directs all that good to bring a beautiful music that comes from all of mankind. So then you could think, so there's a positive, so the exile is positive. So he says, no, if we would have done our job properly, and not sinned, and not whatever, don't we recognize our function, our goal, then we would have made what we're making, coming back to making a strong center in Eretz Yisrael. It becomes like this magnet that pulls all the good without having to be there physically. In other words, by the central super magnet of the nation of Israel and the land of Israel, that brings all that good, directs all that good. The conductor becomes so strong from this central podium, and now we can conduct it all and bring all that good about. But that's our goal, to bring that good to mankind, to bring God's good to the world. Like he says in Yeshayahu 43, Amzu yatzarti liti latif, this nation have I created in me to save my name. I created this vehicle in this world. Looks like other people, looks like man, human beings. We are human beings, but the essence and the content and the divine inner essence is something not from this world. It comes from beyond this world into this world to raise this world beyond this world. And that there are forces that try to hold that up. And especially when the last, like I said, the final expression of that good, the final curtain is supposed to go up, and then there's the forces of evil. So we see the world is now, there was a lot of, how do you say, support we have from all over the world, but now I hear there's also in Toronto, Morocco, Egypt, and in other places that there's demonstrations the other side. People take the other side.
Well,
that's understood.
People think that Biden is here to help us. I'm not.
So that's another question. I'm saying the people that are outspokenly, they're taking the side of the Hamas. That we're the bad.
These are the son of Israel.
What?
These are the son of Israel.
Okay, there's still evil in mankind. You'd think that now it's clear. Most of the modern world, the civilized world, recognizes and says and sides with Israel, realizing this is a fight of good against evil.
Also neo-Nazis in the States and all over
the
world.
This girl from Colombia, she said mainly a lot of Jewish, right, in the campus. But there was this guy that got up in the class and says that no, if it costs to kill women and children, that's the price of the Palestinian movement, whatever, and then so it be. And the professor said, yes, he agrees, whatever. So this is the intellect. This is not so. You'd think it would be clear now, this division of good but you see the world is now divided. And we're at this maybe final battle of good and evil. And we'll see. Again, we know where God is. God is on the side of the good. And we have to know and be clear of that. That's why I said the spirit should not fall. And Rav Kook talks about the emphasis of not to lower our spirit. Because we know the ultimate conclusion. We know that from all of that, in spite of the pain, he suffered, he mourns, but in spite of all that, and with all that, and through all that, to know that out of this will come an even greater, according to the measure of the darkness, the savagery, the evil, it's on not just the quantity, but I don't want to get to the details, but the identifying the body, like masayot, how do you say, just
Trucks.
I don't want to.
I can't imagine how much people have been going through to clean up.
And the ones who went to get to the body, the Zaka, and all those people that he said, some people said, I take my hat off to the soldier. If we saw 10% of what they're seeing, what they're doing, after dealing with collecting, and that's what the battle is here. Now it comes clear. It's more the surface of who we're dealing with. What is Am Yisrael and what is the enemy? It's not just a political enemy, not for, like Biden even said, it's not for Palestinian rights. Here is this of evil versus good, and the good will succeed. It's not easy. It's still not, we've, again, still in the middle of this process. But our goal is to, again, to be those that the strength, I said at the beginning, I started to say how when the nation, the neshama is now this unified force, comes to the front, then there's a very strong and important influence of those that were supposed to be the spiritual leaders that keep that spirit strong. They're not to fall. The influence is so great when you do a good thing and you help and they volunteering, all these things on the front that we're the civilian front. You have no idea what, and especially the spiritual front. In other words, the backbone of the nation, giving it that strength that the battle is not just won by the physical. Again, like we say in Tehillim chapter 20, we say every morning, right? There with the swords and the horses and the chariots, we're with the name of God. We're also with the swords and the chariots and the horses, but with the name of God. We have recognized that's what gives us the strength and the certainty of the victory. But we have to be clear of the justification of our being and what we're doing and what we're fighting for. To be clear of that, because now the world is trying to present us as the innocent civilians, and you can't go into all the different things now to the initial support, so to speak, when we're suffering, being killed. But when we go and get rid of the evil, then all of a sudden they show pictures of it's not a pleasant thing. War is never a polite, nice thing. But that also the Midrash says how the nations support you until you start winning and victory, and then again comes out even the support, like you said, even the supporters no longer are there because. But Am Yisrael has to be strong. That's why our goal is like Rav Kook over and over again. There's an article here of Rav Tau, one of the main students of Rav Kook, who talks about this, the importance of like Kook writes, of not to our spirit should not fall. There's other fault, and how our goal is to keep that, because again, like I said, the victory is not just the physical prowess, but the gvura, the soldiers, the unity. In our unity, our strength is in our unity, and understanding that of our goal, the grandeur of our goal, the grandeur of these hours of what's taking place. But light is coming, a new light to the world, to mankind, is to be, and not to stop, and not to be hesitating because if maybe it doesn't look good, or maybe it does. We have to do the job. And again, for the sake of mankind. And there'll be voices that are starting already. We should maybe try to split and to try to division within the nation, in which again weakens that whole thing. We have to be there to be strong, to know the justification, not just justification, the necessity, the obligation to bring that good to the world, and to be strong, and that strengthens the soldiers and to succeed in that goal. So again, there's much more to talk about, but maybe just with that message for now, that our goal is to be there with that spiritual, that support, so to speak, to tell the nation and the soldiers we're with them. You're doing the good job, like the Rambam says. You're fighting the wars of God, of good in the world. Continue to succeed, and that's what we'll be. They will succeed, and we'll be good at the end. And we have to, in the interim, this period of challenges and difficulties, to stand firm and to be aware of that inner truth, and to support and to be part of that redemption for the salvation of all of mankind. Hashem. So.